Hey guys, if you missed part 1 of this series, don't forget to go check that out first. And again, thank you so much to GamerSupps for sponsoring this series of videos. 10% off your order of GamerSupps using the code NOOP, or if you want to support the channel for free and have never tried GamerSupps, take a chance and use my code anyway to get some free samples because that's how much they trust their product. And also, don't forget, if you want to see the original cutscenes and all of my reactions to them, check out the gaming channel No Operator Live, where I've been posting my playthrough of Jujutsu Kaisen Phantom Parade in consistency with the part. Make sure you hit that like and hype button because this video took a lot of time and effort from both me and the editor, and let's stop wasting time and get back into the story. Everyone is forced to split into teams against their will, spawning unlikely pairings like the Zenin sisters, Momo, Inumaki, and Momo Nishimiya, as well as the all-girls team Saki Rindo, Nobara Kugasaki, and Miwa Kasumi. However, despite their high level of reconnaissance, even after an entire hour of searching, not a single team has encountered hide nor hair of Rosetsu. Megumi suggests that his team and Miwa's meet up to confront the Ten Shadows vessel, sensing its presence closer to them. Meanwhile, Momo will go off to help the other teams locate Rosetsu, as she can cover way more ground with her flight. Deeper on into the mountain range, Aoi Todo, the only sorcerer that was deemed strong enough to investigate on his own, races at breakneck speeds across the terrain, exercising curses the entire way through. Not having much luck compared to the other students though, Todo decides to stop his rampage and answer the ringing phone in his pocket. It's Momo, who attempts to guide Todo towards Megumi and Miwa's teams as they converge on the Ten Shadows vessel, but Todo vehemently refuses, saying that the vessel probably isn't even special grade, and if the others are worth anything, they won't need his help exercising it. Speaking of which, Todo needs to hang up now anyway, since he actually just hit the jackpot now. And as the line disconnects, Momo is shocked to think what her classmate most likely means by those words. The main target, Rosetsu, laughs, claiming he's flattered Todo would consider him such a catch, revealing that the grade 1 did in fact encounter Rosetsu. But the curse frowns, claiming that for him, finding Todo is more like a big miss, attempting to summon forth a horde of minions to escape, but Todo tears his shirt right off, promising that he'll make Rosetsu regret underestimating him. Catching back up with Momo, the closest team to her location was Yuji, Panda, and Yuki, who she immediately informs Todo made contact with the target. Realizing that they're directly between both Todo's location and Principal Yaga's, Itadori opts to head towards Todo first, while everyone else tries to notify the principal. Yuki is hesitant, but Panda's more than aware of the bond Yuji and Todo share, admitting there isn't really anyone that'd be able to reach Todo faster anyway, and Momo acts as Yuji's guide as the two race back towards the battle coordinates. But Todo and Rosetsu have already been scrapping for a few minutes now, and the special grade is growing agitated with the sorcerer, who he calls a pest. But Todo laughs, asking if he's such a pest, why can't Rosetsu get rid of him? Deducing that Rosetsu is most likely after something specific on the mountain, and Rosetsu basically admits as much, saying he'd like to conserve energy for later, and if he exposes a weakness this early, it could ruin the grand finale. Rosetsu tries increasing the number of minions in his horde, but Todo is done playing games, declaring he's got no other choice but to force Rosetsu to get serious. And waiting for just the right moment for the curse to let his guard down, Todo unveils his boogie woogie technique, swapping places with Rosetsu's minions and landing multiple critical blows, coming to the conclusion that compared to a disaster curse like Hanami, Rosetsu is nowhere near as powerful. Despite sustaining heavy damage though, Rosetsu begins to smile and laugh, thinking to himself it was such a blunder not to realize such a strong technique was hiding amidst the students. As the grade 1 continues his handicapped assault on the curse, Rosetsu loudly declares the boogie woogie technique must be his, right as Todo lands his finishing blow, scattering Rosetsu's cursed energy to pieces, his essence disappearing into nothing. Todo lets out a sigh of relief after finally exorcising his prey. Or so he thinks, as suddenly a woman's voice calls out to Todo, wondering aloud if a special grade like Rosetsu would truly go down so easily. Time stops, and Todo is pulled into the world of his own inner mental machinations, face to face with the idol Takeda, who asks, despite Todo watching Rosetsu disappear with his own 2 eyes, isn't dying at such a dramatic moment of the fight exactly what a curse would want Todo to think? and in less than 0.0001 seconds of time passing, Todo realizes in a minuscule of a moment he's been bamboozled. Thinking back to that highly skilled cursed minion he and Ryuji ran into at the hot springs, with cursed energy concealment like that, a curse could easily fake its death. And as time resumes, Todo jumps out of the way just before Rosetsu lands his counterattack. Todo apologizes to the curse, admitting that even though Rosetsu's on the weaker side, an enemy that can pull off a trick like that shouldn't be underestimated. But even before Todo can finish, Rosetsu tells him nothing the sorcerer says matters anymore. As much to Todo's shock, a deep, impactful fatigue falls over him. Rosetsu has already fulfilled the conditions necessary for Curse Technique Snatch, retrieving a sample of Todo's blood just earlier. And as the exhaustion keeps Todo incapacitated, an empty vessel emerges from the forest behind, ready to accept its master's new gift. But first we cut to Megumi and Inumaki, who have also begun their encounter with the 10 Shadows vessel. Yet no matter what they do, it just seems like the vessel is leading them on a wild goose chase. But once the trio of Miwa, Rindo, and Nobara arrive, the Shadow Vessel decides it's finally time to stop messing around. Having been tasked with delaying Jujutsu High's efforts and separating as many undesirable sorcerers as possible from the main stage, now that there are more than enough subjects present in one place, the vessel is free to trim the fat. The sorcerer that Rosetsu really wants is not amongst this group, and the vessel calls forth its Nue as the students prepare for battle. But we're cutting back to Todo and Rosetsu, as the curse is more than proud of his side quest, admitting he never expected to steal such a valuable technique. Confidently, Todo declares it doesn't matter if Rosetsu steals Boogie Woogie, as there could never be a better user of the ability than him. But like clockwork, the storm of cursed energy disperses and reveals a fully transformed curse vessel, a red, six-armed beast. And in one look, Todo instantly realizes what Rosetsu meant when he said he was trying to prove the superiority of curses, knowing all too well how 3 sets of arms can change Boogie Woogie's potential. In no time at all, Todo finds himself completely overwhelmed against the Boogie Woogie vessel. Knowing full well how troublesome his curse technique can be firsthand, Todo wonders if this is his toughest challenge yet. But just as all seems lost, a voice calls out to Todo, and as if fate itself was pulling the strings, Todo can't help but laugh to himself as Itadori Yuji barrels out of the forest, landing right next to his brother's side and asking if he's okay. Todo admits he is now, happy to know that even in his darkest moments, his brother will always be there. Yuji's surprised to see Rosetsu's new vessel and asks if Todo can still fight after his technique was stolen, but whether it's because Rosetsu had a smaller sample size or just because Todo is plain tougher than Megumi, he's more than ready to keep carrying on, declaring some fake would never compare to the original, and knowing that as long as the two of them are together, they'll conquer any foe as the best friends charge into battle. Back with Panda and Yuki, the two are being constantly delayed by the endless hordes of Rosetsu's cursed minions. And once again, they're faced with no choice but to split up to reach their destinations faster. Surprisingly though, it's Yuki who suggests this decision, and when Panda seems hesitant, the Fukuoka student jumps in front of the cursed corpse and exercises a minion all on his own, telling Panda that the priority should be getting as many people to attack Rosetsu as possible. Panda thinks Yuki shouldn't try so hard, since he can easily see that Yuki's shaking from over here, but he agrees and decides it'll be okay to trust Yuki from here on out. And all by himself, Yuki takes down the entire crowd of curse minions, using Itadori's fighting style as a reference to increase his skills. Yuki doesn't want to get too full of himself though, so he decides to go meet back up with Panda and Yaga. But right before Yuki heads off, a familiar voice calls out to him, and shocked, Yuki turns around to see his own principal, Nagino, standing right behind him, fully recovered from his injuries. Too happy to really question the sudden appearance, Yuki's elated to see his mentor, excited that they'll be able to meet up with Yaga and take down Rosetsu together. But Nagino laughs, claiming that he actually already passed Yaga on his way here, and their plan was to have Nagino and Yuki head in first while Yaga collects everyone else. Yuki is a bit weirded out by this, but Nagino reassures his student, telling him that now that he's here, Yuki shouldn't be such a worrier, urging the student to follow him as they head deeper into the mountain. Meanwhile, Todo and Yuji are still in the heat of their battle against the Boogie Woogie vessel, and even with the added help, the two sorcerers are being completely overcome by the 6-armed curse's repeat swaps. That is, until Yuji and Todo end up beside each other once again and acknowledge they've finally started to get the hang of the vessel's rhythm. And with the brothers' synchronization reaching perfect equilibrium, they're able to differentiate between the unique sounds of both Todo and the curse's claps, using that as a way to adjust Todo's swap to occur just after the vessels, creating an immediate Uno reverse and allowing the brothers to adapt, landing critical counters. Exploiting the various scattered cursed minions surrounding the Boogie Woogie vessel, Yuji and Todo open it up for the perfect knockout blow, exercising the vessel and returning Todo's stolen energy to its proper owner. As it dissipates, Todo tells the vessel that despite its arm advantage, it never would have been able to overcome the infinite odds he and his brother can create in battle. However, despite that synergy, because the vessel dragged both of them so far away from everyone else, Rosetsu can't be sensed anymore, and regretfully, the brothers have to split up for now. And on the other side of the mountain, the other students are just as hopelessly distracted in their battle with the 10 Shadows vessel. No matter how hard they all try, because the vessel is able to conjure multiple Nue at once, they're just trapped in a stalemate with no real way to reach the vessel's main body. However, just as the vessel starts to get comfortable going in for the final kills, a loose bullet rings right past it, followed by a slash that almost cuts the vessel in half, making the curse jump back and revealing that Mai and Maki Zenin have reached the teams, joining the fray and disrupting the flow of battle, giving everyone the opening they needed to launch their counterattack. Yet, despite these turning tides, everyone was missing the major point of this entire operation, something that becomes exceedingly apparent as Yuji, Yaga, and Panda all come across each other on their paths towards Rosetsu, realizing that somehow they were all able to meet up with each other before Yuki did. Wanting to call Yuki and ensure his safety, Yuji does reach him, but the line is too broken up and fuzzy to hear, only being able to make out that Yuki is with someone and that they're right on Rosetsu's tail. They do not realize the danger that Yuki is in though, so the three of them just simply decide to continue their search and find Yuki on the way. On the other side of the phone call, as the line gets cut due to the oppressive and dense cursed energy fogging up the area, Yuki becomes extremely on edge. But Nagino admits it's most likely just because Rosetsu is near. And speak of the devil, right on cue, the special grade walks into frame, having finally escaped the annoyance of Todo and Yuji. Yuki tries to grab onto Nagino and back away, but weirdly enough, the two characters begin chatting with each other as if they were old friends, confusing Yuki as Nagino laughs off the fact that Rosetsu almost basically killed him back in Oita. And surprisingly, Rosetsu shares in the humor, admitting that he may have overdone it, but Nagino should know Rosetsu can't actually kill him as long as their binding vow remains intact. As the tension in the situation begins to focus itself on Yuki, the two pals move their attention over to the student who's cowering in the corner. Rosetsu admits that while he's happy Nagino would be so kind to gift him the sorcerer he needed, he can't exactly take a present home that isn't willing to cooperate. The Fukuoka principal looks the other way and lets out a hesitant sigh before he agrees with the curse. And Rosetsu tells Nagino that he'll leave the dirty work to him. Yuki once again asks to know what's going on, but after apologizing to his student, Nagino chucks a hefty punch right into Yuki's abdomen, incapacitating the teenager and knocking him to the floor. Falling over and begging his mentor to explain what's going on, all Yuki receives are more kicks to the gut, Nagino chastising his student for not properly defending himself with cursed energy like he taught him all those years ago. Just before Yuki passes out from the pain though, Nagino is interrupted by a screaming Yaga, demanding to know what Nagino thinks he's doing, arriving on the scene with Panda and Yuji, as Rosetsu smiles wide from the shadows, unable to believe the coincidence that all of the pieces to his puzzle would come together on their own. Everyone rightfully questions Nagino and Rosetsu on their actions, and Rosetsu seems way too happy to reveal that Nagino has been an informant on his side from the very beginning, essentially acting as Rosetsu's man on the inside to keep the curse up to date on Jujutsu society and sorcerer trends, while in hiding. Yuji asks how Nagino could be stupid enough to work alongside a curse, but all Nagino can say for now is that it's necessary. And in that moment, Rosetsu makes a lunge for Yuji, while Nagino ignites his own cursed energy, attempting to block Yaga from interfering, asking his old friend just how long it's been since the two of them fought properly. Unable to make any sense of what's happening, as Rosetsu summons forth a miasma of cursed energy and minions, Itadori thinks he has no choice but to accept the cursed spirit's challenge, attempting to take Rosetsu down here and now. During the battle though, Yuji is easily able to tell Rosetsu isn't in top form, making the special grade extremely annoyed that he had to waste so much stamina on Todo before getting to this main event. Ironically enough, both fighters come to the conclusion it's now or never and launch their best strategies at the same time. And although Yuji's able to knock Rosetsu off balance with a critical strike, at the same time, the curse makes a small gash on the sorcerer, fulfilling the last condition needed for curse technique snatch. But believing himself to not be a threat of the ability, Itadori continues his assault at full force. However, Rosetsu backs away and opts to take the time to explain and divulge his curse technique one more time to Yuji, admitting usually against an average, no technique having sorcerer like Yuji, curse technique snatch would be useless. However, Yuji isn't just your average sorcerer, and at first, Itadori doesn't get what Rosetsu means by that. The curse just ignores him and thanks Yuji instead. No, thanks Sukuna's vessel for being born in this era and also being careless enough to not realize his value as a snatch target. Suddenly, a vessel appears right before Rosetsu, as the curse continues to explain that when there's no technique involved, the vessel will merely gain the physical properties of the snatch target, and nothing more. And when Yuji still hasn't pieced everything together, Rosetsu decides he'll outright show him what he means, revealing the special gift that he was given by Kenjaku, 2 Sukuna fingers. Now that everything begins to make sense, Rosetsu fuses Itadori's blood, energy, and the Sukuna fingers into the empty vessel's body, creating a mirror parallel to Yuji and Sukuna's soul-body connection. And instead of merely boosting the vessel's power like a finger bearer curse, the concoction imbues it fully with the King of Curses' essence, giving birth to a curse spirit that is actually able to harness the power of Ryomen Sukuna. Out of nowhere, colossal invisible slashes rain down on the earth, ripping Yuji back into the air, as an all-too-familiar demonic laugh resonates from Rosetsu's newest creation, emerging like a mirror replica of the King of Curses himself. And somewhere, deep within Yuji, a scoff rings out. The actual Sukuna, watching everything unfold from within, finds himself disgusted at what he sees, claiming that both Curse and Sorcerer are downright unforgivable for this. At the same time, Mahito and Kenjaku are also enjoying the show from afar. Mahito's surprised to even see that Rosetsu was successful, admitting he actually really didn't believe Rosetsu was worth the risk, prompting Kenjaku to reveal that this is only the beginning and that Rosetsu will soon show them what they're truly waiting for: the Kyushu Grand Barrier, a new world order where curses will reside over humans and enslave them in hopes of harvesting the ultimate curse technique, an idea that immediately brings an intrigued smirk to Mahito's face. As the Ten Shadows vessel begins to realize it may have bit off a bit more than it could chew with Maki and Mai added to the rotation, just before anything major can actually occur, a massive fluctuation of sinister aura erupts across the mountain, triggering both the curse and Megami to realize that Sukuna's power has been released. Seeing this as his ticket out, the vessel's picked up and carried away by one of its Nues, as minions crowd up in one spot to keep the students from following. And with the knowledge that Sukuna's energy has awoken, Megami attempts to stop everyone from giving chase, as despite Mai believing this might be their only chance to stop the shadow vessel, Megami seems to be the only one understanding the danger that's become involved now. Megami assumes that Yuji has actually fallen under Sukuna's possession, and although he's wrong, he does declare himself the only one to go, as per the promise he and Itadori made, this is Megami's responsibility alone. However, Nobara insists she come too, saying that unlike last time, she wants to be there to knock some sense back into Yuji. But Yuji's barely holding on as it is after enduring that colossal attack he just got hit with, as Rosetsu is high on his own success, admitting he's even relieved the ritual worked, as this was honestly Rosetsu's biggest gamble of all. try as he might, Yuji begins to fade in and out of consciousness as the fatigue of curse technique snatch drains him of fighting spirit. In a surprising turn of events though, Kaito Yuki appears to help. He's in just as rough shape as Yuji though. Seeing this makes Rosetsu laugh, asking what such a weak sorcerer would be able to accomplish in a state like that, prompting Yuki to summon the last of his might in desperation, refusing to let Rosetsu hurt Yuji, casting forth a supremely powerful barrier around Yuji that even Rosetsu is able to recognize should be far too strong for Yuki to handle. Realizing the only way Yuki could have done this was a binding vow, one that Yuki admits he staked his life on to keep Yuji safe. Yuki has no idea what Rosetsu needs him for, but he knows the curse wants Yuki alive, conditioning the barrier on the promise that if it breaks, Yuki's life will cease. And in an admitted moment of weakness, Rosetsu finds himself at the crossroads of fate. While he instinctively wants to call Yuki's bluff, believing that due to the circumstances of the binding vow, Yuki technically is winning out on both instances, making the death vow impossible to forge as it lacks equivalent exchange. But at the same time, Rosetsu knows there are no absolutes in Jujutsu. Believing that, for now, it's probably best to just quit while he's ahead, Rosetsu chooses to not test that overwhelmingly great luck he's had, knocking Yuki unconscious and leaving Yuji powerless and alone in his wake. The next time Yuji's eyes open, he's back at the headquarters in Oita, waking up just in time to overhear Rindo lashing out at Principal Yaga after he breaks the news to her that Nagino betrayed them. Understandably, Rindo thinks what was essentially her adopted father being evil enough to exploit them all as pawns is just some sick joke. But sadly, Panda isn't keen enough on manners to hold back and confirms the horrible truth, admitting he even watched Nagino and Yaga fight with his own eyes. As Yuji makes his way into the room, Rindo storms off, brushing past Yuji as she stomps away and punches a wall, beginning to tear up. Deciding to leave Rindo alone for now, everyone regains composure, and Yaga starts to believe that the entire mountain operation was just one big setup. Toto asks what could Rosetsu even want with a, no offense, weak sorcerer like Yuki. And Yuji admits while he doesn't really have an idea, all he can say is that Yuki's curse technique really came in handy the last time they fought. But once Yuji reveals the method and name of the technique, a gasp breaks the nonchalant conversation. It's Principal Yaga asking Yuji if what he's telling everyone is really the truth. And on confirmation, Yaga realizes that if Yuki's curse technique is just as Yuji explained, Nagino hasn't been playing them since the mountain. This whole entire mission from the get-go has been a facade. Thinking back, Yaga remembers a conversation he had with Nagino right after the exchange event. When asked about the Fukuoka students, Nagino proudly bragged about how Rindo was a top-notch sorcerer when it came to fighting, and Yuki was the perfect support with his barrier technique. And for some unknown reason, the mention of a barrier technique makes Yaga uneasy. But Nagino tells Yaga to stop being so gloomy, as Yuki's curse technique is more of an upgraded curtain or veil, and it's nothing like her old ability. Still a little unnerved, Nagino asserts himself again, telling the Tokyo principal that after 20 years, they can't keep acting like what happened didn't happen, saying that in order for his students to grow up right, Nagino doesn't want them to be sad all of the time, like Yaga, as that's what she would want. And Yaga finally nods and smiles, complimenting Nagino that as long as they've got a teacher like him, they'll surely turn out all right. A purely innocent catch-up between friends, but under new light, Yaga realizes that the answer was staring him in the face from that very moment. Admitting he was suspicious the second Nagino brought up Yuki's barrier, but he decided not to stir up trouble investigating, and he gave an old pal the benefit of the doubt. But now, Yaga can only see mistakes, knowing Nagino was being deceptive from the start. And Yaga says he better explain everything to his students fast, as if Rosetsu has truly acquired what Yaga refers to as prayer formation technique, the amount of time they have left has dramatically shortened. In a flashback that goes all the way back 26 years, we meet a young Masamichi Yaga and Kensuke Nagino as they are just arriving in Fukuoka for the first time. At the moment, the two were small-time sorcerers, no different than our current trio, arguing about wanting to sightsee instead of taking the mission seriously. It's not just Yaga telling Nagino to be more professional though, as a third member of their team reveals themselves, a woman named Sarah Kozuki, who tells Nagino that his loud energy is embarrassing. But But even though their target's a special grade curse, Nagino admits as long as the three of them are together, it should be simple as business as usual, brushing it off and leaving the two of them in the dust to go find a restaurant. Sarah sighs, and Yaga pokes fun at her, saying he feels sorry she's got such a Neanderthal for a husband, which makes Sarah laugh, saying there are times where she appreciates Nagino's enthusiasm, but she admits that Nagino being this way does make her scared, as an extrovert like him would never cope well with being alone.
Foreshadowing is a literary device in which—
Fast forward to just after the three sorcerers encountered Rosetsu, the trio back away as Nagino pulls Sarah out of battle, asking what the hell happened to her back there. A fatigued Sarah admits she has no idea, and all she knows is she was hit by the curse's technique. Meanwhile, the special grade we already know way too well laughs hysterically to himself. Rosetsu saying he couldn't have struck a better jackpot, snatching such an immaculate technique. Yaga yells to Nagino and Sarah to fall back as the trio make their escape, and Rosetsu watches them run away with glee, declaring that after this, it won't matter how many reinforcements they bring, no one will ever be able to stop him again. Time passes, and it's explained to us that while the fatigued Sarah was left in the hospital to rest, many other sorcerers were dispatched to Kyushu to help support the assault against Rosetsu. However, because Rosetsu had full control of prayer formation, every single battle that was fought after this was extremely disadvantageous for the sorcerers. Normally used to support allies, prayer formation technique, as seen with Yuji, can be used to boost the strength of friendlies and benefits group battles tremendously. But when used against sorcerers, the curses inflicted by prayer formation can be like poison, causing disorientation, distress, and making it next to impossible to efficiently control one's cursed energy. Despite weeks of hard battles and various teams participating, the war that waged against Rosetsu resulted in the loss of many lives and seemed to have no real end in sight. Because of this, a decision was reached. And all the more tragically, Yaga had to be the one to tell his friend what the higher-ups had decided. With Rosetsu only gaining a larger stock of curse techniques and becoming more and more of an impossible hill to overcome, there was only one option the higher-ups saw as a way forward. And despite Nagino telling Yaga to shut up in hopes of avoiding reality, Yaga confirms Nagino's darkest fears. The higher-ups had sentenced Sarah to execution in order to remove prayer formation from Rosetsu's arsenal. Nagino was rightfully enraged by this, asking how Yaga could possibly accept it, but Yaga tries to tell Nagino that even if they did appeal, the old conservatives at headquarters would never listen to reason after their mind was made up. Nagino demands to know who in the world would suggest such an idea, and Sarah, entering the room at just that moment, reveals it was her who proposed her own execution. Dumbfounded, Nagino tries to convince Sarah to change her mind, telling her that she shouldn't feel like any of this is her fault. But Sarah cuts Nagino off, saying things like she couldn't have known or it couldn't be helped don't bring back any of the lost sorcerers from the dead, admitting she lost the right to live the moment she let herself get caught by Rosetsu's tricks. If anyone understands the danger her technique poses, it's Sarah, and with Rosetsu threatening to create the Grand Kyushu Barrier, where humans will be ruled and harvested like cattle by curses, she could never live with herself if such a thing occurred because of her. Nagino begs Sarah to let him know how he's supposed to live without her, and almost as if she doesn't even have an answer for that, she ignores it, revealing instead that the fact Rosetsu has let her roam free this entire time means he would never expect her to make a play like this, meaning the best possible strategy for Jujutsu High to take would be invading Rosetsu's domain the moment she dies, killing him when he least expects to be powerless. With emotions high, Sarah asks the two of them to live long and fulfilling lives before barging out of the room. And out of pure desperation, Nagino looks to his friend in tears, asking if it's possible for him and Yaga to stage a secret exorcism with just the two of them, getting rid of Rosetsu before Sarah's execution. And Yaga, choked up with guilt himself, tries to be confident, telling his friend of course, and that they'll fight together to the end. But as we cut back to current day, it's all too apparent that Yaga and Nagino were unsuccessful in their attempts, and Sarah's execution was secretly carried out before either of them could react. The final operation on Rosetsu beginning right at the time of her death, just as she said. Unfortunately though, despite all of that sacrifice, even that apparently wasn't enough to exorcise the cursed Rosetsu. And now that he once again has prayer formation in his grasp, he's unlikely to make the same mistakes as before. Already taking precautions and kidnapping Yuki to ensure Grand Kyushu Barrier can't be interfered with. And knowing there isn't much time left before Rosetsu enacts these plans, the sorcerers estimate they only have a couple days left before the final battle. Meanwhile, in the very heart of Kyushu, in the epicenter of a large crater, lies a tall, tree-looking vessel, a villainous location for Kenjaku and Rosetsu to once again meet up and discuss the process of building this grand barrier. The giant tree in the middle serving as the domain's cornerstone, fueled to nearly overflow with over 20 years of Rosetsu's stored cursed energy, with Prayer Formation's user Kaito Yuki imprisoned at its core. Kenjaku is intrigued and also wonders what happened to the king's vessel, but Rosetsu admits it still required some time to develop and was seemingly difficult to control, so instead of creating tension, he just let the vessel roam free for now, as truthfully, it's only insurance to act as a dominant source of energy in the barrier that will hopefully reinforce it enough to even keep someone like Gojo Satoru out of the picture. Kenjaku is surprised to see Rosetsu really considering every possibility, but Rosetsu knows full well there isn't any future where he's standing against the Honored One, revealing he merely plans on waiting out Gojo's natural lifespan before expanding the Grand Barrier across the entire globe. This makes Kenjaku laugh, knowing that this means they'll eventually be enemies in the future. Rosetsu catches wind of this mockery and asks if Geto wants to settle this now and fight, but Kenjaku admits he still wants to see the Grand Barrier in action, wishing Rosetsu all the success before bidding him farewell. And speaking of Gojo, as all of the sorcerers are making preparations for their final fight, the trio's favorite teacher gives them all a ring to check on them. Megumi asks why Gojo can't just teleport over here and handle the mission for them, but the Honored One humorously blows off the crisis, claiming that if he isn't here protecting Tokyo, then curses like Jogo and Hanami could catch wind and cause trouble. But regardless of Gojo trying to get out of working, he says he isn't worried about his students losing to some special grade. Everyone is shocked Gojo could be so nonchalant about it, prompting Gojo to ask his students if any of them truly plan on losing. And in unison, all three of them reject that, making Gojo laugh, thinking maybe he has been rubbing off on them, wishing them the best of luck and hanging up. Weirdly enough, everyone feels oddly relaxed now, almost as if they've got nothing to be worried about in this upcoming battle. And back on the other line, Nanami's surprised to see Gojo of all people offering words of encouragement, to which Gojo simply shrugs it off and smiles, looking off into the night sky, most likely towards the direction of Fukuoka, thinking that he's excited to see what this next generation of sorcerers are gonna be able to show him. And as those final days pass, we cut to all of the remaining Jujutsu High students of Kyoto and Tokyo who ready their final deployment. However, as if things weren't already worse enough, Ijichi runs into headquarters just before everyone can leave, announcing that multiple cursed energy spikes have suddenly appeared all over Fukuoka, including multiple hordes of Rosetsu's cursed minions being spotted throughout civilian areas. Yaga realizes they were just one step too late, believing the Grand Kyushu Barrier must have already began deployment, and with Jujutsu headquarters refusing to send in any extra reinforcements due to the last Rosetsu incident, it's all up to the sorcerers that are present now to stop this national crisis from spreading further. Meanwhile, somewhere in the depths of the mountain, Nagino is alone, waiting in position for Principal Yaga and his students. Except Nagino isn't by himself, as a vile sound can be heard echoing back to him as he talks. Nagino tells whoever he is with to not be afraid, as he and Rosetsu have been planning this day for years, and that soon, once all of this is over, they'll be able to live together again peacefully, as they should have always been years ago. Because this is going to become the peaceful world they always talked about, right, Sarah? Oh yeah, things are just getting good, and I'm sorry to cut it off here, but we've got one more part to the series to go over. So again, if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, the hype button, and subscribe so you do not miss the third and final part to this series. The more likes we get, the faster I'll drop the video, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the finale.